in the global energy discourse. And we're convinced that there is no better institution to convene those conversations than Apple itself.
Speaking for the Ministers of Petroleum, Ibe Kachuku said the organization needs to restructure to enable it to tackle the present challenges, assuring that Nigeria will support the organization strongly.
And so the only way growth will happen in this sector in the whole of Africa is an interdependence approach. All of us must be able to hold hands and find a way of supporting one another in terms of the research, in terms of internal investment potentials and capabilities, and help to drive a process. But more fundamental, we also must be in a position to have a lot of best learning from some of the 3 or 4 major producer countries that have been in this for quite a long time as the new ones are coming on board.
Stakeholders at the meeting say by serving as a platform for increased collaboration and cooperation between member countries, the African Petroleum Producers Organization will go a long way towards helping to overcome financial challenges. From the Presidential Villa, Abuja, Ayobami Pashe, reporting for CoreTV News.
Nigeria's Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has called on West African oil-producing companies to think of a world beyond oil and to tap into the expertise of the private sector that will enhance economic diversification in the region. Osinbajo made his call at the extraordinary session of the Council of Ministers of African Petroleum Producers Organization in Abuja. Kikelomo Kere has more.
Declaring the extraordinary session of the Council of Ministers of African Petroleum Producer Organization open, the Vice President emphasized the importance of redoubling efforts at using oil and gas revenue to pursue diversification, investment in infrastructure and human capital, which, according to him, will ensure future economic growth and development.
The lesson here is that while oil and gas will continue to be critical to our revenue bases and our national economies, we must redouble our efforts to achieve the following. 1, to diversify our economies away from the dangerous overdependence. And 2, to ensure that we invest as much as is possible of today's current oil and gas revenues in the infrastructure and human capital that will underpin future economic growth and development.
He emphasized that a revitalized African Petroleum Producing Organization will contribute tremendously to development of African oil and gas industry. He therefore called on Apple to open up its organization in a way that non-Apple members and private institutions will be able to invest.
It is important to acknowledge that the relationship of our various countries with oil and gas is in an interesting and somewhat complicated mode. It is, for many of us, the mainstay of our economies, delivering much-needed government revenues and foreign exchange to our economies.
The Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, who took over leadership of Apple on June 11, 2018, says the only way growth in oil production can take place is through an independent approach. He therefore called for cooperation among member states in achieving such growth.
And so the only way growth will happen in this sector in the whole of Africa is an interdependence approach. All of us must be able to hold hands and find a way of supporting one another in terms of the research, in terms of internal investment potentials and capabilities, and help to drive a process. But more fundamental, we also must be in a position to have a lot of best learning from some of the 3 or 4 major producer countries that have been in this for quite a long time as the new ones are coming on board.
The economies of African countries tend to pale in significance to other continents, as it is hoped that the outcome of this extraordinary session would help plug the obvious gap. Kikelomo Ukeri, CoreTV News, Abuja.
The Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, has reiterated the determined commitments of the federal government to create job opportunities for Nigerian youths by producing electricity prepaid meter locally. Fashola also says the federal government is working towards criminalizing electricity estimated bidding. The minister stated this while commissioning power projects in Kaduna State, northwest Nigeria. Ifeanyi Sabila has more.
The Mondo Power Station was established in the 1960s with a transmission capacity of 13.8 kV, which has been upgraded to 33 kV and is connected to the national grid through Shiroro Kaduna 330 kV lines. Fashline Company of other stakeholders in the power sector commissions power projects at Kakuri and Mondo Power Stations.
Deliver incremental energy to the people of Kaduna State.
Fashola also says the ministry will provide access to the 37 billion naira loan for meter access providers while urging electricity distribution companies to take advantage of the program. On the estimated billing, the minister further shares the federal government's thoughts on estimated billing.
The executive side of government has done in terms of providing access to a 37 billion naira loan for a company that is a potential meter asset provider, and I encourage DISCOs to take benefit of it. The intervention by the legislative side of government seeking to pass a bill to mandate the elimination of estimated billing and possibly criminalize it. And that shows that whether it's on the legislative or the executive side, government is concerned about this issue and government is active.
The Minister of Power, Wilson Housing, notes that government is working hard towards ensuring stable public power supply across the country while creating job opportunities for teeming unemployed youth by producing electricity meter locally.
If you start importing meters, know that you are exporting our jobs away. So those are all the challenges that we have to deal with, and the president has issued an executive order 5, that whatever we can produce here in the country, we must prioritize production here. Meter production as small businesses, almost like in this tent behind you, and we need to see more of them rise up.
The commissioning of the Kaduna Power Project, which was awarded in the year 2016 and was completed this year, is expected to boost socio-economic activities and living standards of the residents of Kaduna State.
This is CoreTV News of the hour. Take a break. I'll be back with more local stories. Please tune us again.
Hi, I am Anita Patrick, host of your program Abuja Today, that brings you highlights of happenings in Nigeria's Federal Capital Territory from the Office of the Federal Capital Territory Administration.
I appeal to all of us citizens, leaders, politicians, and all to support this team to be able to restore the Abuja Master Plan.
To the streets that involves every boy, every girl, every man, every woman, and every youth on the streets, unfolding of happenings in the nation's capital territory.
Our challenge here is kidnapping, and the secret is there. It's a very short journey. You don't have to go as far as Abaji before you know what is happening in Kuji.
All of us, we don't know, in short, we don't know where to put head, because definitely our students, they are hungry.
So join me at this time on CoreTV as we take you on a tour on Nigerian seats of power.
This is what
infrastructure is the backbone of development, which explains the Buhari government's effort at bridging the facility gap. Infrastructure Weekly is a television package designed to bring you latest information on hundreds of development projects going on in various sectors all over the nation.
There is no state in Nigeria today where you will not see our contractors busy at work.
Power generation, rural electrification, road rehabilitations, national housing scheme, construction of roads and rail lines across the country, you name it.
We are now able to produce 7,000 megawatt of power. That is no longer debatable.
Infrastructure Weekly is Nigerians working together for a better Nigeria. So be better informed to take better informed decisions. Watch Infrastructure Weekly, showing on Channels Television, Thursdays 2:30 p.m., NTA Network Wednesdays 5 p.m., and CoreTV News Fridays at 8 p.m. Infrastructure Weekly.
Have not had electricity for so many years. The leaders from the communities thank the state governor for remembering them after so many years of neglect, and also appealed to the governor to create a program that will integrate ex-agitators back into the society.
Today marks a new beginning in the history of our court area. Today marks the end of darkness in our areas. Today marks the entry of light into our area. We, the Aura Court area, made up of Ochia, Asa, Obile, and Awara communities, from the depth of our hearts and beyond verbal expressions, we appreciate His Excellency, Owele Dr. Rochas Okorocha, the Executive Governor of Imo State, the Deputy Chief of Staff Operations, Honorable Kinsili Chima Uju, the Managing Director, ISOPADEC, Honorable Andrew Woketubo Voko, for this noble gesture towards our people. Who thought it wise to touch the lives of the people who have been living in a state of despondency over the years? Before this time, we were in a state of darkness. Our country never saw light. On a very good day, we, the leaders of our area, paid him a courtesy visit in his office. And in that very courtesy visit, we told him explicitly that we needed electricity. And he took judicial notice. Today, he has come. Very laudable project. You see, this is not the first government, it's not the second government, it's not even the fifth government that has ruled this state. Governments have come and gone, but no government has ever remembered this area. And that was why this place has been the headquarters of the militancy. It's because of the agitations of the government neglect of this area.
For the Deputy Chief of Staff and the Managing Director of Imo State Oil Producing Areas Development Commission, the government of Okorocha is determined to bring succor and development to the oil-producing communities of Oguta and Ohaji-Egbema. They, however, appealed to the youth of the area to ensure that the projects are secured, adding that the government is also working hard to ensure there is potable water supply in the communities.
In 2 weeks' time, mark my words, we are not playing political games. We talk, we do. In the next 2 weeks, you will have free water running in the streets of Awara. That is empty talking. In the next 1 month, our Asa market will wear a new look. And in the next 2 months, Owele has said that there must be what? Right. These are projects that are very important to the governor. Today, as a day, we are actually bringing physical electricity to our court area. Our court area has been without electricity supply for decades, for years ago. And this has been a very big burden to the people from this particular area. I know most of your leaders, if you ask them what you want, they will say, give us electricity and take every other thing to yourself. Yes. And that underscores the importance of electricity to this area. And who know electricity as a veritable ingredient of development to any nation or any state.
They assured that academic activities will soon resume at the abandoned Awara Secondary School, while the science laboratories in Asa Secondary School will be equipped to standard.
Under State Command of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps has intercepted a tanker loaded with 33,000 litres of diesel in Ore, Modigbo local government area of the state, and also intercepted by the command were 3 vehicles loaded with jerrycans and tanks of adulterated kerosene, totaling 3,600 litres. The state commandant of the NSCDC, Pedro Ideba, who disclosed this to reporters in Akure, also paraded 5 suspects with the seized product, 2 with a diesel tanker and 3 with a kerosene tanker. The tanker driver claims the product is not illegal as all his papers are genuine from the depot. The NSCDC boss assures that the suspects will be charged to court to serve as deterrents to others.
suspect has been arrested on the 1st of June who are involved in illegal dealing in petroleum products. Buying and selling DPK is a bad one. We have tested it, and they have confirmed to the fact that they went to Igbokoda. Igbokoda is in Nigeria local government area of Ondo State. And they went to the creek, they bought those products from that place, and luck ran out of them where our men arrested them.
The immediate past Attorney General of Ekiti State, Owoseni Ajayi, has dumped the People's Democratic Party for the All Progressives Congress. Ajayi says his decision is born out of irreconcilable differences with the governor of Ekiti State, Ayodele Fayose. He notes the events that followed the party primaries showed that APC is a group of matured people who have been able to manage post-primary election crisis effectively. The former Attorney General accused Governor Fayose of deliberately frustrating people out of the PDP, adding that no fewer than 15 members of the Ekiti State House of Assembly will soon decamp to the APC. He says he was embittered that Governor Ayodele Fayose could not fulfill promises made to him before the 2014 election.
I have decided from today, 11th of June 2018, to withdraw my membership for PDP and join the APC forthwith, to be able to actualize my political dream and also join hand with like minds to ensure that Ekiti State, the fountain of knowledge, land of honor, does not become a Gestapo state, where an individual obsessed with power dictates to the rest of the state, where no man ascribes to himself the status, I am the state.
The federal government has expressed satisfaction with the Global Alliance for Vaccine and Immunization financial commitments and other development partners' contributions towards eradication of vaccine-preventable diseases in Nigeria. The Minister of Health, Isaac Adewale, stated this in Abuja at a media party on the Gavi board approval of the funding envelope and the decision for extension of traditional period from 2021 to 2028. And outside Nigeria now, the U.S. says the discussions with North Korea are moving more quickly than expected ahead of the summit in Singapore on Tuesday. The preliminary talks between officials have been taking place ahead of the unprecedented first meeting. And the White House also confirms that President Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un will hold a one-on-one meeting with only translators present. The outcome may determine the fate of North Korea's nuclear program. And the U.S. also insisted to accept nothing less than complete denuclearization of the Korean peninsula, while North Korea has also said it is willing to commit to denuclearization, but that term is open to interpretation. It is also unclear what concessions Yongchang would demand in return, which makes the summit very hard to predict, and this is according to an analyst. Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez, who took office a week ago, has said the country will take in a rescue ship stranded in the Mediterranean to help avoid a humanitarian disaster. He said it would give safe harbor to the Aquarius and the 629 people on board after Italy and Malta both refused to let the ship dock. The UN Refugee Agency and the EU had both called for a swift end to the standoff between the two countries. The migrants aboard the Aquarius were picked up from inflatable boats off the coast of Libya at the weekend in 6 different rescue operations, according to the NGO's SOS Mediterranean. They include 123 unaccompanied minors aged between 13 and 17, 11 younger children, and 7 pregnant women. Malta's Prime Minister Joseph Muscat tweeted his gratitude to Spain, saying Italy had broken international rules and caused a standoff. Let's take some sport news. Players and officials of the Nigerian national football team arrived at Mineral Verde International Airport in June 11, 2018. The players and their officials landed in their Esentuki base late on Monday night at around 11 p.m. Nigerian time ahead of Russia World Cup football tournament. It was learned that the team's flight from Austria was delayed, which affected their arrival time. And meanwhile, Ghana Roycemen are expected to have their first training session following their arrival on Tuesday. They're the last team in Group D to arrive in Russia for the Mundial, with Argentina and Iceland jetting in on Saturday. Nigeria will take on Croatia in the opening Group D fixture on Saturday at the Kaliningrad Stadium. Neymar and his Brazil teammates landed on Russian soil in the early hours of Monday, fresh from beating Austria 3-0 in their final warm-up outing ahead of the World Cup. As the clock ticks down to Thursday's tournament opener in Moscow between hosts Russia and Saudi Arabia, the five-time World Cup winners arrived in Sochi, the Black Sea resort city where they will be based, just before 3 a.m. local time. The Brazilians made the journey with their confidence boosted after Neymar marked his first start in more than 3 months by scoring a victory over the Austrians in Vienna. That's our Tony News at this time. Thank you very much for watching. I am Olajumoke Olatiju. Good afternoon.
It's time to stand behind 5 African teams on their quest for glory. The 2018
Making development known.
Democracy allows for fair hearing. This is reckless. This is ungodly.
When news break, we engage experts in critical analysis.
Do you see your party coming into power come 2019?
This administration will succeed and succeed well.
You cannot be running a 4-year tenure like you are running a 20-year tenure.
He has done fairly well, especially where insurgency and terrorism is concerned.
Then it gets controversial.
They have a right to their opinion. Can we, very interesting gentlemen, just hold on.
I am about principle and I am about fortune.
Now, you see, let me say this.
So that our soldiers will be free, we should also ask for justification.
Core Digest, your #1 program for current issues.
You can now watch CoreTV News live from anywhere in the world on our website www.coretvnews.com. Click on Live TV on our website and watch us live.
Hello and welcome to CoreTV Primetime News broadcast.
To follow us on Twitter, click on Twitter icon on our website. And Facebook, click on the Facebook and YouTube to see all our previous news production. You can also watch us live on YouTube. Click CoreTV. Leave a space, then news. CoreTV News, a 24-hour news station.
The judiciary, third arm of government. What happens here is what we give to you. The arraignments, arguments, rulings, adjournments of cases and judgments. The fight against corruption and issues bordering on human rights violations.
The doctrine of least spenders ought to have been respected, that no arm of government, however powerful, should take the laws into its hands as held by the Supreme Court.
Justice is one way. It's either you go for justice or justice go after you. But I've never seen a situation where an individual is afraid of justice.
We move from court to court to give you updates on legal matters, when they happen and where they are happening. Going extra miles to get reactions from the parties, even when they are not in the mood to speak.
No comment. Talk to my lawyer.
Watch Legal Scope on CoreTV News at this time.
If you are not idle, nobody will probably come and encourage you to join their gang or the group.
Yes. To keep Nigeria one is a must that must be done. Nigeria is not going to break.
So if I want to buy this one now, how much you go sell this one?
I will give you 500.
Sure? This one?
Yes.
This small banana?
Yes.
I know that Buhari can do it.
He has a lot of plans. We should be praying for him. He's a human being. Anything can happen to anybody.
The majority of the law they pass belongs to them, to favor them, not the masses in Nigeria.
If we want to change, let's change generally. Don't let's change half. Let's change generally.
The people giving voice to the voiceless.
CoreTV News now live on all Androids.
Hello and welcome. This is CoreTV.
Download CoreTV News app from your Play Store. Click on the menu to see all our top stories from politics, sports, business, foreign news and live TV to watch us live on your mobile.
I want to know why I should be believing them.
You can also click on video to see all our YouTube videos. CoreTV News, a 24-hour news station.
Hi, I am Anita Patrick, host of your program Abuja Today, that brings you highlights of happenings in Nigeria's Federal Capital Territory from the Office of the Federal Capital Territory Administration.
I appeal to all of us citizens, leaders, politicians, and all to support this team to be able to restore the Abuja Master Plan.
Through the streets that involves every boy, every girl, every man, every woman, and every youth on the streets, unfolding of happenings in the nation's capital territory.
Our challenge here is kidnapping, and the secret is there. It's a very short journey. You don't have to go as far as Abaji before you know what is happening in Kuji.
All of us, we don't know, in short, we don't know where to put head, because definitely our children, they are hungry.
So join me at this time on CoreTV as we take you on a tour on Nigerian seat of power.
This is what
infrastructure is the backbone of development, which explains the Buhari government's effort at bridging the facility gap. Infrastructure Weekly is a television package designed to bring you latest information on hundreds of development projects going on in various sectors all over the nation.
There is no state in Nigeria today where you will not see our contractors busy at work.
Power generation, rural electrification, road rehabilitations, national housing scheme, construction of roads and rail lines across the country, you name it.
We are now able to produce 7,000 megawatt of power. That is no longer debatable.
Infrastructure Weekly is Nigerians working together for a better Nigeria. So be better informed to take better informed decisions. Watch Infrastructure Weekly, showing on Channels Television, Thursdays 2:30 p.m., NTA Network Wednesdays 5 p.m., and CoreTV News Fridays at 8 p.m. Infrastructure Weekly, making development known.
Democracy allows for fair hearing. This is reckless. This is ungodly.
When news break, we engage experts in critical analysis.
Do you see your party coming into power come 2019?
This administration will succeed and succeed well. You cannot be running a 4-year tenure like you are running a 20-year tenure.
He has done fairly well, especially where insurgency and terrorism.
Then it gets controversial.
They have a right to their opinion. Can we, very interesting gentlemen, just hold on.
I am about principle and I am about thought.
Now, you see, let me say this.
So that our soldiers will be free. We should also ask for justification.
Core Digest, your #1 program for current issues.
You can now watch CoreTV News live from anywhere in the world on our website www.coretvnews.com. Click on Live TV on our website and watch us live.
Hello and welcome to CoreTV Primetime News Broadcast.
To follow us on Twitter, click on Twitter icon on our website. On Facebook, click on the Facebook and YouTube to see all our previous news production. You can also watch us live on YouTube. Click CoreTV. Leave a space, then news. CoreTV News, a 24-hour news station.
The judiciary, third arm of government. What happens here is what we give to you. The arraignments, arguments, rulings, adjournments of cases and judgments. The fight against corruption and issues bordering on human rights violations.
The doctrine of least spenders ought to have been respected, that no arm of government, however powerful, should take the laws into its hands as held by the Supreme Court.
Justice is one way. It's either you go for justice or justice go after you. But I've never seen a situation where an individual is afraid of justice.
We move from court to court to give you updates on legal matters, when they happen and where they are happening. Going extra miles to get reactions from the parties, even when they're not in the mood to speak.
No comment. Talk to my lawyer.
Watch Legal Scope on CoreTV News at this time.
If
If you are not idle, nobody will probably come and encourage you to join their gang or the group.
Yes. To keep Nigeria one is a must that must be done. Nigeria is not going to break.
So if I want to buy this one now, how much you go sell this one?
I will give you 500.
Sure? This one?
Yes.
This small banana?
Yes.
I know that Buhari can do it. He has a lot of plans.
We should be praying for him. He's a human being. Anything can happen to anybody.
The majority of the law they pass belong to them, to favor them, not the masses in Nigeria.
If we want to change, let's change generally. Don't let change up. Let's change generally.
The people giving voice to the voiceless.
CoreTV News now live on all Androids.
Hello and welcome. This is CoreTV.
Download CoreTV News app from your Play Store. Click on the menu to see all our top stories from politics, sports, business, foreign news and live TV to watch us live on your mobile.
I want to know why I should be believing them.
You can also click on video to see all our YouTube videos. CoreTV News, a 24-hour news station.
Hi, I am Anita Patrick, host of your program Abuja Today, that brings you highlights of happenings in Nigeria's Federal Capital Territory from the Office of the Federal Capital Territory Administration.
I appeal to all of us citizens, leaders, politicians, and all to support this team to be able to restore the Abuja Master Plan.
Through the streets that involves every boy, every girl, every man, every woman, and every youth on the streets, unfolding of happenings in the nation's capital territory.
Our challenge here is kidnapping, and the secret is there. It's a very short journey. You don't have to go as far as Abaji before you know what is happening in Kuji.
All of us, we don't know, in short, we don't know where to put head, because definitely our children, they are hungry.
So join me at this time on CoreTV as we take you on a tour on Nigeria's seat of power.
The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has secured another conviction, this time the former governor of Taraba State, Jolly Inyame, who was convicted on offense bordering on criminal breach of trust. We'll bring you full package on this and some other stories see trending in the legal circle. Welcome, I am Basil Okafo. Stay tuned for details. An Abuja High Court sitting at Gudu has sentenced the former governor of Taraba State, Jolly Inyame, to 14 years in prison without option of fine. Justice Adebukola Banjoko, while delivering the judgment, said that the judgment will serve as a deterrent to other public officers. The former Taraba State Governor, Jolly Inyame, who was prosecuted for misappropriation of the state funds to the tune of 1.64 billion naira during his tenure between 1999 and 2007, appeared in court along with some of his relatives for judgment in the corruption case against him. In delivering the judgment, the trial judge, Justice Adebukola Banjoko, found the former governor guilty on 27 out of the 41 counts filed against him by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. After convicting Inyame, the judge held that based on the testimonies of the witnesses called by EFCC to prove its case against the former governor, that there was a crazy level of corruption during Inyame's tenure as governor of the state. In sentencing the convict, Justice Banjoko held that Inyame will serve 14 years in prison for the offense bordering on criminal breach of trust, 7 years for gratification, 2 years for the offense bordering on misappropriation, and another 5 years, but that it will run concurrently. In the opinion of the judge, the sentence will serve as a deterrent to governors and other public officials who are currently occupying various positions.
It's a long walk to justice. The judgment has demonstrated a show of courage that, and it has sent a very clear signal to the society that corruption does not pay in any way. The judgment, as I told His Lordship, shows the long suffering of His Lordship to have withstood the pressure for more than 11 years. And at the end of the day, at least out of the 41 counts, 27 counts have been shown to have been proven beyond reasonable doubt. And this sends a clear signal to the society that people that are entrusted with our properties, our resources, should take good care of it and should always endeavor to be accountable, should not go on with impunity.
There was a heavy presence of security operatives while the judgment was going on, and after the judge concluded, the convict was seen being taken away in a vehicle belonging to EFCC. Defense counsel was not around for reaction after the judgment, but prosecution counsel provided more insight.
The battle certainly has not been easy. The case has traveled all the way to Supreme Court and has come back. His Lordship rightly mentioned that trial eventually started in 2010 when the charge was filed in 2007. So it certainly has been very tortuous. In the process, we had trial within trial on the statements of the defendants, about 3 statements of the defendants, and the trial within trial spanned more than 3 years. All this shows that the mill of justice grinds slowly but surely.
In proving its case against the former governor, EFCC had called 14 witnesses, while Inyame testified in his defense and called other 3 witnesses.
They were arraigned by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, on a 4-count charge in connection with a sum of 700 million naira campaign funds released to the state by the People's Democratic Party headquarters in 2015. The trial judge, Justice Muhammad Shuaibu of the Federal High Court, Kaduna, ordered that they be remanded in prison custody pending hearing on their bail application. Yero has been facing trial by the EFCC since 2016 over 750 million naira 2015 general election campaign fund. Counsel to the accused person, Ustaz Yunus, said the former governor and his lieutenants are innocent, while expressing satisfaction with the stand of the courts.
Totally innocent, and the burden is on whoever has brought him to court to prove. The charges were read to them. They all pleaded not guilty. And then the Honorable Trial Judge has adjourned the case to Wednesday, the 6th day of June, 2018.
On his part, counsel to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, Joshua Saidi, also said he is comfortable with the ruling.
Well, we just arraigned their defendants, and they pleaded not guilty. It's the issue of conspiracy and then the taking possession of the sum of 700 million naira, which the author have not constitute form part of unlawful activities.
Supporters of the accused persons were outside the court's premises, chanting and singing in solidarity of the former governor while the court was in session. The other three accused persons, including the former Minister of Power, Nuhu Somowaya, former Secretary to Kaduna State Government, Hamza Dama Awuyi, and the immediate past Chairman of the People's Democratic Party in the state, Haruna Gaya. It will be recalled that the Economic and Financial Crime Commission, EFCC, last Friday interrogated former Governor of Kaduna State, Ramalan Yeru, for 4 hours at the Commission's office in Kaduna. Yeru has been facing trial by the Anti-Graft Agency since 2016. The case has been adjourned to Wednesday 6, 2018 for hearing on bail application.
Still on the fight against corruption, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has closed its case against media mogul Raymond Dobesi and his company, Da Investment Limited, after 14th prosecution witness testified against the defendant. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has closed its case against media mogul Raymond Dobesi and his Dark Investment and Holdings Company Limited after the 14th prosecution witness testified against the defendant. An operative of the EFCC, Usman Aliyu, in his testimony narrated to the court the outcome of his analysis of the 2.1 billion naira allegedly paid to Dobesi and his company by the Office of the National Security Advisor in 2015 and how the businessman spent the money on personal affairs. The witness was led in evidence by prosecuting counsel Oluwaleke Atolabe and was later cross-examined by the lead defense counsel Kanu Agabi. Shortly after the witness was cross-examined, Atolabe told the trial judge, Jose John Sohu, that the testimony of the witness was the end of the prosecution case. In response, defense counsel said that he will file a no-case submission on behalf of the defendant. File a no-case submission implies that the defendant won the court to dismiss the charges preferred against them on the grounds that the prosecution has failed to lead any evidence linking them to the alleged crimes. Jose John Sohu, before adjourning the matter, directed the defense lawyers to file their no-case submission within 21 days. The judge also gave the prosecution the same number of days from the day they are served to respond to the defendant's application. He also directed that the defendants will have 14 days to further reply from the day they are served with the prosecution's response to the no-case submission. He then adjourned till October 4 for the adoption of the written addresses by the two sides. EFCC has charged Dobesi and Da Investment with money laundering and procurement fraud involving the sum of 2.1 billion naira, which they allegedly received from the Office of the National Security Advisor between January and March 2015. Dobesi and his company were said to have received the alleged money from Sambo Dasuki as payment for a purported contract on presidential media initiative. The prosecution alleged that Dobesi and his firm received the money to prosecute the People's Democratic Party's 2015 presidential media campaign. The prosecution is also alleging that the payment was in breach of the provisions of the Public Procurement Act, Money Laundering Prohibition Act, and the EFCC Establishment Act. Let's go for a short break, but when we come back, we'll still bring you other reports on the fight against corruption. Stay tuned.
Hi, I am Anita Patrick, host of your program Abuja Today, that brings you highlights of happenings in Nigerian's Federal Capital Territory from the Office of the Federal Capital Territory Administration.
I appeal to all of us citizens, leaders, politicians, and all to support this team to be able to restore the Abuja Master Plan.
Through the streets that involves every boy, every girl, every man, every woman, and every youth on the streets, unfolding of happenings in the nation's capital territory.
Our challenge here is kidnapping, and the secret is there. It's a very short journey. You don't have to go as far as Abaji before you know what is happening in Kuji.
All of us, we don't know, in short, we don't know where to put head, because definitely our children, they are hungry.
So join me at this time on CoreTV as we take you on a tour on Nigeria's seat of power.
Welcome back. The Federal High Court sitting in Abuja has closed the defense of the former National Public Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, Olisa Metu, on the grounds of diligent prosecution. Justice Okun Abang made the order after prosecution cross-examined Metu's 11th witness in his absence.
When the matter was called, Metu made his way to the dock but he suddenly collapsed, prompting the court to stand down the case for a few minutes to enable medical personnel to attend to him. When the hearing of the case resumed after the incident, defense counsel Emeka Etiaba applied to withdraw as Meto's counsel on the grounds that he will not represent someone who is critically ill. But delivering a short ruling, the trial judge Justice Okun Abang refused to grant the application and lambasted the prosecution counsel Silvanus Tahi for not raising an objection to defense application asking to be allowed to withdraw from the case. He also threatened to strike out the matter if the prosecution does not know what to do in the case.
The situation he was, I think the medical personnel of this court were alerted and they came to observe his situation. So when, my lord, when the man fell down, the honorable judge had to go back to the chambers and came back to the courtroom around 30 minutes thereafter. And at that point, there were doctors on ground. And I think because the man was kind of complaining or in pains, the doctor had to inform the court that they needed to evacuate him to the hospital. So when I was asked if I was opposed to what the medical doctor said, of course, as a prosecutor, I owe this trial the highest sense of responsibility as a prosecutor. The Administration of Criminal Justice Act is clear. A defendant can only stand trial while he's